Hello, I am Charles Reagan Swindoll, and I am the author of this essay. The reason why I have written The Kiss of Judas is because I have been asked so many times by many people who have seen my Luciferian video. They ask me what it is that they can do to be a part of the Great Awakening. How can they contribute to this amazing event? And the best way you can contribute, and the most that you can do, is to wake up to who you are, to see past the deceptions and the lies that have enrobed you your entire life. And so the purpose of this essay is for you to wake up on your own and to see for yourself how you have been lied to. The Kiss of Judas, a field guide to disempower the aristocracy, escape deceptions, broaden perspective, and liberate yourself. A creative writing essay by Chuck Swindoll. We have been willing slaves for thousands of years, and we are about to experience freedom from that bondage for the first time ever. Congratulations, friend. You made it. Over many millennia, the earth became a human farm run by tyrants intent on our dispiriting, destruction, and harvest. We were the fodder of royals, tools for the regime, food for the lions, and sacrifices to Leviathan. It didn't matter if you knew this because a slave doesn't matter. Those days are now ending. We are watching the multi-millennia corporatocracy that has ruled the species, that's you and me, friend, crumble to the ground like Pompeii of old. No human being before you has ever had the opportunity to see justice brought down upon the ruling agency. Humans have always died prostrate at the hands of dictators here. So welcome to the Great Awakening. It's sure to be an interesting ride. No human before you has ever seen vindication of the species. Imagine being in the 12th century right now under the hands of a pedophilic pope and his sty of pigs he calls bishops. Or in 1st century Rome under Emperor Nero, also a pedophile, with human rights still centuries away. There was no hope for those generations to know anything beyond what was allowed by the aristocracy. Heck, people didn't even know the word individual. Our ancestors never had any hope corruption would be brought to justice back then, because there was no internet to uncover the filth, and who would listen anyway? You'd be dead by morning the moment you stepped over the line. Just consider how social media handles naysayers today. Those that don't follow the media narrative are extinguished. Back in the day, the pharaoh, the emperor, the pope, and the king were never held to account for their deeds. Justice for the species is an experience absent from our memory, because it never happened. There was no hope for the millions of humans trafficked from before Egypt till now. No hope for the people fed to the lions. No hope for the so-called witches the Crusaders destroyed. No hope for the soldiers who were trained, armed, and sent to murder strangers. No hope for us to develop out of the ceaseless deceptions, imposed conflicts, and indoctrinated lies. Are you getting a bearing of all this by now? What's happening is not from chance or stupidity. Surely you see that as you look back over the last 100 years? Consider the atrocity they have made of medicine by fighting diseases like cancer with chemo that F's the liver, treating depression with SSRIs that F the brain, treating pain with opium derivatives that F the gut. It's all been a sham to keep you dependent, indebted, ignorant, and sickly. Consider the raping of forests instead of going all hemp in the 40s. The poisoning of our foods with GMOs instead of developing and augmenting organic plant husbandry and advanced hydroponics for barren locations. The poisoning of our planet by burning coal, nuclear, and petroleum fuels instead of harnessing the limitless ionosphere as Tesla rendered in the 20th century. Consider the fluoride in water, human flesh in processed foods, also known as natural flavoring. Constant wars and destruction of economies, the stealing of our ability to build wealth through imposed illegal taxes, and the devaluing of our money with fiat currencies. They have always known its shuck and jive economics because it was set up to ensure our continuing bankruptcy. They've made a mockery of our children with education systems teaching an unquestionable science they claim to own. Dead-end Common Core math they proudly endorse, and teaching history through their racist prerogatives. Kids' minds have been pilfered with participation trophies, gender smearing, and skin color narratives, namely, white man bad and orange man bad. Judging by skin color has a name. and it is racism. They've dismissed the spirit of the female by allowing men to appropriate women's gender at will without any regard for the honor and glory it is to be a woman and mother. They've removed the terms mom and dad in exchange for parent 1 and parent 2. How would you like your child to call you parent 2 instead of mom or dad? Removal and squandering of your identity is their modus operandi. They've upped the ante with hormone-altering and DNA-impinging drugs that permanently change body chemistry without any care or thought of long-term effects on the young and old alike. It wasn't a scientific experiment. They knew what the gene therapy jab would do to people. Dr. David Martin and Dr. Rainer Fulmick have found the C19 patents from the 1990s. It's truly disgusting. Can you see the anti-human agenda? Can you see the constant patterns to control and molest the species? Can you see the intent to deceive on a mass scale? Can you see the media fomenting constant lies while hiding truths? Absolute power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. To stop absolute corruption, we must take responsibility for how we have enabled their schemes. This happens through self-awareness. Stop being naive. Stop being jab compliant. Stop acting like they care. Stop supporting their institutions. Stop lying prostrate on your face, waiting to be saved. Stop asking permission, seeking approval, and expecting reproof, as these are the behaviors of a slave. Stop imagining someone's coming to save you. It only empowers them while disempowering you. Believing someone is going to come save you is just living in denial of being a slave. Stop turning your kids over to big pharma corporations intent on making them lifetime customers. Stop pretending they have you or your child's best interest in mind. They don't. CPS is just a child sourcing service used by the elites. Amber Alert is just to alert there are new kids on the market. They even send pictures so buyers can see the goods before purchase. It has nothing to do with saving the child. Stop being so ignorant. They are using your innocence against you. The beatings will continue until morale improves. That's just nature's way of saying, save yourself, or you deserve to die. You will remain in the trap until you figure your own way out, because the trapper, ignorance, and trapped, you, are the same. You enable their lies by believing them. Take responsibility for what you know, or you will remain brainwashed and controlled. Stop handing your brain and freedom away to enterprises built to consume both. Accept a larger world, or remain stuck in the golf ball-sized reality they conned you into. See how nature works? Beatings continue until morale improves. Nothing changes until you change it. That starts with your awareness, because if you don't see it, you will continue to be deceived. Nature is merciless. Learn or remain their farmed ignoramus ready for slaughter. Nature does not give itself to the lowest bidder. It is not looking for those who seek others to inform. A person worthy of higher awareness earns their perspective through experience. Awareness is not handed down like money or beliefs. It is developed through character and risk. Nature loves courage, seeks participants, and offers bounty to the inspired. Only those that risk themselves by courageously participating in the now can bear the higher knowledge and awareness that goes with fearless participation. Experience is a great teacher, not a savior. What are our saviors? Knowledge, awareness, and perspective. These are what save a life and are only discovered by fearlessly participating. The more risk, the greater the reward. The more you experience, the more you know. The more you F around, the more you find out. This is because nature is shrewd and hands itself to no one. You will sacrifice your life to realize the deepest truths, because knowledge requires nothing less. There is no shortcut to wisdom. The truth is not a mirage you see in the distance or a religious race to win. It is an experience you realize through the authentic now. The now is the biggest rapture on offer, and consciousness expansion is the result. Did you fall prey to the con that it's just a matter of reading a book, an admission of guilt, committing to a religion and defending it, deciphering a theology and following it, buying from what's offered and living it? Life isn't that docile, friend. It's not a pet to train or a stomach to fill. It's not waiting with bated breath for you to inherit your destiny. Remember? Nature hands itself to no one. You merit your life, and pain is the most judicious path. It is you who are responsible, not God. To know love, one must be willing to die. To know truth, sacrifice is necessary. To experience rapture, risk is required. These have nothing to do with theology and everything to do with courage, humanness, and compassion. Love is free for anyone to experience, not just the elect, the saved, and the anointed. The spark of consciousness is already within us all. It's simply a matter of according with it. What greater love can be experienced than one whereby you give your life to another? This has nothing to do with atonement or beliefs, and everything to do with self-sacrifice, also known as kenosis in the West or satori in the East. Through self-sacrifice, grace is experienced. Compassion is teased out through identity, not commanded through moral imperatives. Life is not a theological dissertation. It is an experiential enigma. Because the person who gets off the train is not the same person who got on it. The stream you see in the morning is not the same stream you saw last night. The world is not the same as it was for your mother and father. The universe is not the same as it was for Mesopotamia. Having no anxiety about the ephemerality of it all is the challenge we face. Accord or be crushed. From death comes life. From life comes death. Now you see it, now you don't. This is the way of nature, and so also the way of you, a nature creature. You have as much life in you as death, as much love as hate, as much fear as courage. Accept your responsibility to equalize, or remain in frustration, fighting nature with salves of belief, religions of conflict, and promises of assurance. What did Dr. Campbell write, and I quote it in my book on page 216? Quote, "The first step to the knowledge of the wonder and mystery of life is the recognition of the monstrous nature of the earthly realm as well as its glory. The realization that this is just how it is, and that it cannot and will not be changed. Those who think they know how the universe could have been had they created it, without pain, without sorrow, without time, without death, are unfit for illumination." End quote. Growth only happens through acceptance of a world ontologically past the one being experienced. Running from the world by mistrusting the now keeps those unwilling to live in context thirsty. Thirst leads to more desires, and desire is just another form of suffering. This is why denial of reality keeps you a thirsty apprentice in a reciprocating illusion. You are responsible for your own development, and so you determine whether you grow or remain a frightened apprentice, cowering from a merciless nature. To develop perception, you will have to let go of how you wished the world to be, so as to experience the world as it authentically is. That is to say, if an apprentice is ever going to become a master, they will have to break from their indoctrination to foster a wider perspective. Would you want to be loved for what you are expected to be, or exactly as you are? Why would life be any different? The apple does not fall far from the tree. The more you love, the more love comes to you. The more you hate, the more hate comes to you. You are the one who takes the wheel. You are responsible for the destiny you experience. The world became a bastion of filth because our species and this planet were sold for 30 shekels long before the Kiss of Judas. The Kiss of Judas is simply a metaphor of the betrayal of the Christ consciousness within us all by those who claimed to love us. Can you see this? In fact, the Judas kiss event from an alternate perspective renders the betrayal of Christ consciousness in us by those who educated us all. Who educated us? The winners. Who have the winners always been? The Nephilim, the Pharaohs, the emperors, the Khazarians, the old religionists. Nothing escaped the grasp of these institutions of absolute worldly power. Everything we know has been tainted by the winners, and the winners have always been the cabal. Christ consciousness is a metaphor for the compassion which embodies you, enlivens and animates you. The betrayal metaphor was used to convince humans they are not Christ consciousness, but bound sinners, dirty with filth, and doomed to hell. We have been betrayed by the kiss of the cabal who has educated the species through mass deceptions to destroy any hope of our finding out who we really are. We have been shamed to think we are the problem, whereas Christ consciousness, who we are essentially, cannot be soiled, can't be unworthy, incapable, or doomed. You were not born lost, but rather unaware of who you are. Christ consciousness is who you really are, for that is where love, compassion, and identity spring. These are the characteristics that define your humanness, but you will only embody them by experiencing them without fear or desire for their fruits. The good and evil characteristics of you cannot be tainted or overcome. They are to be fearlessly experienced and accorded. Believing you are prone to evil constricts your awareness. It is why the Cabal wants you to think you are a sinner, because sinners act and think like slaves. The sinner's mind is constricted with shame and fear, with duty and obedience, with atonement and security. These are the bounds of a slave, and so every sinner is left to hostage grace through Jesus and never identifies with themselves. The moral of the story: find out who you really are, or die a slave. We've been lied to about everything for hundreds of generations. We've been bought and sold like mules at auction. We've been raped of our innocence and torn from our consciousness. I've made all of this clear in my many presentations on YouTube. I've led no one astray. Our betrayal predates Egypt, and we are still properties of the government. The Fed has become just another cabal racket, placed upon humanity as passed down from the Pharaoh, the Emperor, the King, and the Pope, who all had their fill of us. If we can be deceived, we deserve it. Awaken yourself, because only you can save yourself from ignorance. Read 1984. Read Animal Farm. Read Brave New World. Watch Soylent Green. Watch The Matrix. I'm not alone in my views or insights. Nothing I've said hasn't already been said. Nothing I've pointed out is new or revelatory. I've simply put my twist on the patterns as presented, and then courageously offered my findings regardless of how they destroyed my life. Through destruction of life, truth is birthed, because from death comes life. You see how it works? It is happening. Have hope. There is nothing to fear. If we were to be destroyed, they would have destroyed us long ago. They would have never allowed us to know what we know, and certainly not to the detail I and many others have elucidated. We would never have developed this far. We all would have died at the hands of psychopaths, just like the countless generations before us. There is much to be thankful for already. Most just don't realize it yet, because their world is only as big as their intolerant religion and or unquestionable science, which is sad, because unquestionable and intolerant societies are merely glorified cults. What is coming? Our true history, our true origins, what they did to our genetics, what they did to our longevity, what they did to our ancestors, the age and history of the earth, and the giants who walked before us. Aliens, medbeds, the quantum financial system, unlimited and free electricity from the ionosphere, long life till 1,000 years of age, debt-free economies, and asset-backed currencies. To experience and know these beautiful realities, the corruption must be eradicated. The Cabal does not want a fair, humane, self-developing, and liberated society. On the contrary, they want a self-defeated humanity to plunder. So the greed-based dominator world we unknowingly built for them will be replaced with partnership ideals as society transcends through greater awareness, acts of selflessness, and fearless compassion. The Cabal have stood in the way of our development to retain their power, but now the piper of awareness has come for payment, and they will be found wanting. Stand and be recognized, friend. The golden age of humanity has arrived.